And a good Monday morning, Quad Cities. It is 9 o'clock, and this is Monday, April 28th, 2025. And boy, is it a manic Monday if I have ever seen one. Good morning.
Good morning. What a start to the day.
We've been running all over the place this morning already. We can tell it's going to be a very busy day, not only here at the news station, but also across the region. Good Monday morning. I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzky.
I'm weather anchor Peter Warner.
Yeah, got a lot to talk about today. Yes, our threat of some severe weather. We have two possible scenarios that I'm also going to take you through as well that could kind of spell out what may happen or may not happen as we go into this afternoon. So lots and lots to track here for you. If you have a question regarding today's severe weather threat, you can text that to 309-304-0888. That's at the bottom of your screen. We're going to be here for the next 30 minutes until the bottom of the hour, doing kind of a deeper dive into our threat for severe weather today to get you prepared. You know, we've been talking about this now for more than a week.
Yeah, we put that weather impact alert out just a week ago exactly, right?
That's right. Yeah, I believe it was late on Sunday. So we've given you a lot of time to kind of plan and prepare for this, and now the day has arrived. And definitely make sure you're staying close to the forecast, hopefully with your source here, your favorite source here at Storm Track 8. It's one of those days, as I said this morning, that we're going to have to kind of look at things hour by hour and see how they evolve.
Yeah, it's going to be very dependent on, well, it's obviously a very dynamic system, but there's one key aspect we're really keeping an eye on here.
That's right, and that's going to be something we call the cap. Yes, you've probably heard us talk about that term over and over again if you're a longtime follower of weather, so we'll do a deep dive into that to explain it as well. We'd already had some showers and some thunderstorms this morning. Even there in Iowa, you've had a couple.
Oh yeah, rapidly developed too. We were looking at it. If you take a look like on the slower radar and you slow it down around, I'd say 6:30, all of a sudden just a little bit of lightning popped up in Webster County near Fort Dodge. Then if you looked at it 30 minutes later, it's developed into that line, then now that cluster that we're seeing out in Waterloo. And I think that's kind of what I said this morning is, yes, this isn't severe, but it's a good idea of what we could potentially be seeing here today. How these storms, they might just kind of, they see a little bit of a blip, but they can rapidly develop here.
Exactly. Yeah, just kind of give you a sense of how volatile the atmosphere is going to be around here today. Any activity in the Quad Cities? Well, not right now. Not seeing anything pop up on the radar, but that is something we're going to be watching as we go into the afternoon. So let's step through the threat, everything else that's going to be coming in. So we believe that this is going to be an evening and overnight threat. However, there's one scenario we're going to be tracking, especially as we go into later this afternoon, and that is the potential that we could see some earlier storms develop ahead of the main storm system itself. And if that were to happen, we could really be in some big trouble when it comes to perhaps some earlier severe thunderstorms compared to what's coming in for this evening. So that's something we're really going to be watching. And now that we're closer, we know what threats we're going to be most concerned about, and there's two of them. It's the hail and the tornado threat.
Yes, we're seeing a significant area, or hatched area, in portions of the area, or I guess portions of the Quad Cities area carrying into central Iowa and further north into southern Minnesota, into western Wisconsin.
Yeah, big old purple zone there.
So you see that purple, that's a rare one. Don't see it for that often.
Yeah, and especially, you know, this early in the season, so widespread into parts of Minnesota and Iowa, like you said. Now, we still have this 3 out of 4 hanging out in the Quad Cities, and this is likely for that scenario that I just mentioned. If we get something to pop later this afternoon into the early evening, that thing could go gangbusters and just really put down some large hail and perhaps a stronger tornado. And Peter, you look at the tornado zones today, we're in the same tornado zone in the Quad Cities than compared to the folks that are up north in that 4 out of 5 risk.
Yeah. It's an elevated risk, and look how large of an area it covers too with that hatched.
It's huge.
It's huge, and it is okay. Maybe I could be wrong here, but it looks like it might have shifted just slightly to the east here since yesterday as well.
It did, yeah. It's further into Wisconsin and now goes all the way to Lake Michigan, whereas it didn't yesterday during that. So yeah, we got an update from the Storm Prediction Center at 8 o'clock this morning. That's what you're looking at here now. And it still shows the Quad Cities in that darker red, which is the 3 out of the 5. And it also has the polka dots. And that means that within that zone, we could have 1 or 2 of those tornadoes become a damaging tornado of an EF2 or greater in intensity.
Yeah, anywhere within that hatched area, it's a 10% chance of seeing that stronger tornado within 25 miles of a point on that. little hatched area. So anywhere within 25 miles of that hatched area, that's where you have that, I guess, elevated or 10% chance of that strong tornado touching down. And that's kind of our biggest worry as of right now, I feel like.
Yeah, that is definitely my main concern. In addition to this, check this out, the large hail, also in that polka dot kind of a pattern, and in that same zone, the hail of 3 out of 5 on the threat track today for Quad Cities and areas to the north and west. So these storms, again, if they can take advantage of all of this energy that's going to be sitting around, could really, really cause quite a bit of damage. So in recapping all of this, tornadoes are 3 out of 5 today. There will be 1 or 2 strong ones possible if storms can get going. Golf ball sized hail, perhaps larger, maybe even just shy of baseball size at the worst, as at a 3 out of 5 today. Wind damage a little bit lower. That's at a 2 out of 5 on the threat track scale. I put this together this morning too, just kind of showing you how this threat is going to evolve. We're circling the yellow there because the afternoon threat is very low confidence. If we can't get anything to form this afternoon, then we're likely not going to see much develop later this evening. That would be due to that cap that we were talking about that's going to be in place. So again, to kind of reestablish what in the world is a cap, if you're not familiar with that, let's go through that now. So a cap, as we let this load, think of it as a lid. It doesn't allow air to rise. There's a little warm layer of air several thousand feet up. Usually it's between like 3,000 and 7,000 feet up above the ground. And look at the temperatures. So you have the temperature scale there in the middle of your screen. It could be 80 degrees at the ground. It gets cooler briefly, but then the temperature goes back up.
Yes.
Whereas instead, if you don't have a cap, the temperature consistently falls from the ground to the upper level of the atmosphere.
Yeah, and that's what allows saturation or unstable particles of air to develop. That's where that dew point and the temperature meet that same level, and that's where you see clouds develop. And as that rises, once they meet that level, that's obviously what develops those large clouds, those supercell type formations that we could be seeing with this setup. But with that cap, once that temperature in the upper levels of the atmosphere separates a little bit, it doesn't match up with the dew point, which kind of helps keep that cloud cover a little bit lower, not allow those parcels to rise and continue to create that instability further up into the atmosphere to create these large storms.
Exactly. It really limits the potential for that. And that is what we are expecting to happen this afternoon. But as always, Mother Nature can throw you a curveball and that cap can weaken or break, or if an updraft, like a brief rain shower, gets strong enough, it can actually bust through the cap. And if that happens, then we're in a whole mess of trouble when it comes to storms. Now, the reason that is possible is if you look at the storm energy today, it is very, very high. And not just here in the Quad Cities, but look at the almost at the top of the scale storm energy as you go into central parts of Iowa this afternoon. That's our worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that the cap were to break with all of this storm energy. We get explosive storm development here, likely in central Iowa, all the way down to northern Missouri, and then those would race eastward, reaching the Quad Cities early this evening, likely after the 5-6 o'clock time frame, as we get a little bit deeper into the evening. That's the worst case scenario again. That's if everything comes into line perfectly, the cap breaks, the storms initiate, they come rolling in with the hail and the tornado threat. So that's our scenario, one of them that we're looking at. It's going to be interesting today too, because as I was talking about this morning, this is going to be our first humid day of the season.
Yeah, it's going to feel thick out there again. We haven't felt that in a while.
It has been a long, long time. Look at your dew point temperatures. This is right now, so it's easy to see where the front is, also where the dry line is going to establish itself. We don't get to talk about dry lines very often, but you can see there's dew points well into the 60s. A reminder, you need 55 plus to get severe weather. And we're going to have 60s heading our way this afternoon. We're already at 53. And as we put Future Track into motion, you're going to see how quickly this moisture arrives as we go into the afternoon. We're going to see a nearly 10 to 15 degree increase on the dew point temperatures as we get into the afternoon. For some reason, Geneseo is always a really crazy low number. I need to try and get that fixed and figure out what's going on there. No, you're not an odd thumb out. Switch the number. 63, I think, would be best. I think it's just reversed there for whatever reason. But yeah, we certainly will have the moisture. That's not going to be a problem. The biggest question, again, is can we get that cap to break to form the severe weather? So let's go through those scenarios really quickly. There's 2 of them again that are possible today. And Brandy, I may have to have our banner taken down for this one here too, because I don't think it's there. Thank you very much. So this is the first scenario. We already had some isolated storms this morning. Those are gone. This is the worst case scenario. We get into the afternoon, the cap is either weak or it breaks, and we get rapid severe storm development to our west out in central Iowa, or maybe just a little east of that after 3, 4 o'clock. And then those would race through here this evening with that large hail and tornadoes. But based on everything we've looked at and everything the Storm Prediction Center is saying, Peter, it appears it could be scenario number 2 that's most likely. That's what we're going with right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of a trend we've seen on the models here over the last few days. And obviously, no model is going to be exactly right, typically in these situations, right? But when you see general consistent agreement on that significant cap kind of developing, that's typically a good sign. And you look at the data in the upper levels of the atmosphere, you can see that cap's looking like it's going to stay. So that's why we believe this is going to be the most likely scenario. And what's going to be really telling is a potential weather balloon launch we get this afternoon.
Yes, and we've been in contact with the National Weather Service trying to see if they can give an estimate when that balloon's going to go up. Usually, based on past history, it's going to be either later this morning around lunchtime, or it's going to be about 1 or 2 o'clock this afternoon. That weather balloon launch is going to be a very crucial piece of data, because that weather balloon is going to tell us how strong or how weak that cap is that's going to be in place. If it's weak, we're going to be leaning more toward that scenario 1, which is the worst case scenario. If that strong is very robust, or if that cap is very robust, very strong, then we're probably looking at scenario number 2. So we're trying to set expectations here, because I know there's going to be a lot of folks, strangely enough, I don't know why they think this way, but either their house gets blown down or it's not an event. You know, you have to remember that it's just not your location that could be impacted by severe weather. We cover a very large area here at WQAD. So it could be areas to the north, it could be areas to the south. It may not be your exact address, but certainly someone could definitely be impacted by some storms. The other thing is too, you know, if we get unscathed through this evening and we get no storms, Peter, I don't want folks to think that this forecast busted in any way. Again, that's why we're setting these expectations now and letting you know that we're at a fork in the road, and this is either going to go way number 1 or it's going to go way number 2. And based on our predictions right now, we think number 2 is the route we're going to take. But at the last minute, we could always pivot back to number 1.
Yes, I mean, and this is why we break down these scenarios and why we've called this out so early. Again, yes, it's number 2 looks likely, but there is still the potential for number 1, and that's why we want to put this out there so early and we keep talking about it, is because if scenario 1 does play out, it could be a significant event throughout the whole upper Midwest, honestly, that we're seeing, including our area. So that's why we kind of want to keep you guys aware is, yeah, we're trending towards number 2 potentially as of right now, but number 1, even if there's still that chance that it's there, we want to make sure you're prepared, your family could be safe with this situation we could see develop tonight. Again, most likely we're looking towards number 2, but because that chance for 1 is still there, we just want to help you stay prepared.
Yeah, so it's a very tricky forecast. It is one of those days where we have to look at the data every hour on the hour, and that's what we've been doing this morning, without a doubt. That weather balloon, again, is going to be very crucial to bear what's going to happen for us this afternoon. So I don't want folks to put your guard down yet. Once we get that weather balloon data early this afternoon, then we'll be able to message and communicate what we think is going to be happening later. Are we going to see more isolated storm activity, or are we going to see stuff take off in Iowa and just race through our region? But we've been talking about this now for, like you said, a week more. We issued the weather impact alert way in advance. So when you got a strong signal like that, it's definitely a storm system worth tracking even on the day of, for sure.
Yes, it's always something to keep an eye on. We'll be radar hawking it and keep an eye on every single hour. We're going to stay here and make sure we keep an eye on that radar.
So we're going to broad brush the time that you need to be aware. We're not going to be able to really pinpoint and say, yeah, we think storms are going to be on the east side of the Quad Cities, or storms are going to be the west of the Quad Cities. We're going to have to put a very broad brush on the timing of this. And that's why our weather impact alert begins at 5 and it goes all the way till midnight as of right now. So we have to wait to see, 1, if storms are going to develop, and 2, where are the storms going to develop, in order to tell you exactly when we think they're going to arrive in your hometown. So that's why right now we're broad brushing 5 o'clock this evening until midnight. I know it's a huge time. I know there's a lot going on. There's baseball, there's softball, there's Little League, there's outdoor concerts. It's just one of those evenings where you're just going to really have to stick by this thing and watch your notifications. I know James is going to be doing some extra coverage on the A+ app, whether it's this afternoon or evening. Another great resource, because again, you're going to have all of his knowledge in addition to our knowledge and expertise to tell you literally everything that we know that's going on and what we think is going to happen.
And a great way to do that is get that Storm Track 8 app on your phone.
Yes.
Because that'll have up to date whenever you get lightning near you, any warnings that come out, it will have that, and it'll tell you with a nice loud deep voice to make sure you hear it.
Yes, it will. You will definitely take notice when that voice comes over your phone. So good advice there. And of course, make sure you're tuning into the 8 Plus app, as we just mentioned. We have all these newscasts coming up this afternoon. We have the current with Shelby Kluver. We have the 5 o'clock, the 6 o'clock, and of course the 10 o'clock. So multiple ways that you guys can stay updated on the severe weather threat. But yeah, I'm really interested in that weather balloon this afternoon.
That's the big story.
It's going to be very
the
crucial.
tell-all almost in a way.
It really will. So we'll take the next few minutes here and we'll answer some of your questions and we'll see what you guys got for us this morning.
Yeah, Matthew was wondering about what's it going to be for, I'm assuming that meant for Kiwani, just based on the spelling, that's what I'm assuming, because I don't know any Keenwib.
Oh yeah, probably Kiwani.
I'm guessing Kiwani.
Voice to text, that's like my phone. My voice to text option is terrible. So Kiwani, still, I think an area worth watching. You're kind of on that border of the 2 and the 3, though I'll say there's been consistency in that the deeper into Illinois you go, the lower the threat is.
Yes.
In terms of severe weather, it's more scattered. So you can see Kiwani firmly in the 2 out of 5 threat track. The $1 million question is, can we get those storms going in central Iowa? And you also notice that I have not shown Future Track once this morning, whether it be the in-house model or the rapid refresh model, because neither one of them are showing either of these scenarios really well. They're just not handling this storm system well at all. And that could be for a multitude of factors. And I'll leave that for the engineers that run those models to decide. We can take a quick peek into both if you'd like to. And again, I do not want you to take this as gospel.
The end all be all.
That this is going to happen or this is not going to happen. But I just want to show you kind of an example of what we've been dealing with in terms of some inconsistencies. So we'll start with our in-house model first, and then we'll go over to the rapid refresh model. So this has a very late window on the storms taking off in central Iowa there, and then they basically fall apart as they get here. Not much happens. In fact, that's the scenario number 2 where you don't even get any rain. The front comes through with nothing more than a shift in wind direction. But you also notice too, the in-house model lacking on severe weather in parts of Minnesota, in northern Iowa, in western Wisconsin, where there's a big 4 out of 5 risk sitting there. And that's an area that we're more confident is going to get the widespread severe weather. But our in-house model just not grasping on that. And that's okay. Computer models, they're models for a reason. They're an estimation as to what's going to happen. If they don't show everything, that happens. They're not perfect, and neither are we as humans, of course. So should we switch over to the HER?
Yeah, switch over to HER.
The rapid refresh is what we're referring to here.
Yes.
And we'll see if there's any difference. Let's do, I guess we could do the extended first.
I've used the extended here and looked at those two, compared them today.
And let's see if there's any difference. There's this, Peter and I, we've been talking back and forth about this, what we call a prefrontal trough. And you can think of it as like a pre-cold front in a sense, but it's in the upper level of the atmosphere. It's not in the ground, switching winds and bringing colder air. But this is the scenario that we have to watch as we go into the evening, the late afternoon and evening, is that prefrontal trough coming in right there. Do you see how there's some light showers in eastern Iowa? That's that potential that could lead to explosive storm development late this afternoon into this evening. And the HER kind of hints at that there.
Right there in southern
in south central Iowa? Yeah. You're kind of seeing a little bit of that hint that something's going to start blowing up pretty quickly. Now, I like the HER a little bit better because you see we are getting better storm development in that 4 to 5 zone to the north. So it's doing a little bit better job grabbing onto that. And I will tell you, the previous run had nothing here.
No.
It was quiet.
This morning, actually, both runs on the house model and the rapid refresh model didn't have a lot. The house model actually had more of a pop-up than the rapid refresh did. And I think that kind of just puts it into perspective of what we're dealing with here. Is 2 different model runs, just about, 4 hours apart, 5 hours apart from each other, that have both completely changed scenarios each time.
Exactly. That's why nothing is set in stone right now, and they could change again. This could escalate even further with the next model run that's going to be due out in the next few hours, or it could de-escalate and it could dry out again. So it all depends again on the strength of the cap. There you see the line of storms, at least if something were to form here about 1 tomorrow morning. I would think by now it's running out of steam. It's getting so far to the east. Could there be some wind and a hail threat with that? Sure. But the tornado threat will likely decrease a little bit more as we go through the night. So we're still going to end that weather impact alert at midnight, at least the way things look right now. But it's all about that. I think for the main early show, it's all about this prefrontal trough coming in right here to see if you can get something firing. It's interesting you got the clouds.
Yeah.
I mean, that's indicating you've got
perfectly.
lift.
Yeah. You got lift, and it's riding right along the timing of that moisture as well. When we were looking at that future track with the dew points we were looking at, that timed up exactly pretty much with it once we start to see our dew points rise here in the Quad Cities.
Yep, it really does. So that's interesting to watch. I'm going to go to the hourly update, see if there's anything new with that. And I think we're on that right now. Yep, that should be on the high resolution hourly. You can see, kind of the same idea, starting to blow up that line.
And that's where it stops.
And that's where it stops. Yep, it's a little bit more limited in terms of the time scope.
Yes.
But it looks like it's latching onto the same idea that we got with the extended run. So that's why, again, I really haven't shown Future Track much this morning. It just, in my eyes, it doesn't have a really good grip quite yet on what's going on. That could always change, though. We get another run literally at any second. So we'll look at that before we get out of here at 9:30.
That's true.
Yeah, see if anything's changed.
We will keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think this is something we're going to preface this with a lot of our hometowns. When you're asking about your town, we have the general idea of when it will happen. I think it's better to maybe tune in later once we get that weather balloon in.
Yes.
We're going to stick with the 5 to 12. And if we get that early afternoon burst timing from, I'd say around 10 o'clock for the western towns till 1 o'clock for the eastern towns.
For the eastern towns.
That's kind of the way to, I think, approach it as of right now. But again, we want to give you that fine-tuned forecast, but because of the scenario, I think we don't want to tell you exactly what time you're going to be seeing it in your hometown, I guess.
We want to keep kind of a wide open window for right now because a lot is dependent on that cap for this afternoon.
Yes. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing. So if you asked a question about your hometown, that's kind of just a generic answer.
Yeah.
We'll go through some of the other stuff. Billy, just say good morning. Good morning, Billy, as always. With this morning's rain, is there a possibility for outflow boundaries to further enhance our severe weather potential?
I do not see that today as of right now. We're going to have very strong south winds across the region today. 45-mile-per-hour gusts this afternoon. That should push any of that kind of a boundary well north out of our region. So as of right now, outflow boundary is not likely going to play a part in this today.
So for Carroll County, again, just general time frame, we're keeping it from 5 to around p.m. to around noon. Austin, Hamilton, how are you? Sheraton, you are looking, again, right where we're seeing that bubble in the HER. Your time frame for Des Moines, I have from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. here tonight for the weather impact alert for Sheraton at We Are Iowa.
So a little earlier than the Quad Cities.
Yes, a little earlier than the Quad Cities for you guys further to west in central Iowa.
Yeah.
So what time? Yes, 5 p.m.
Yep, I would say after 5 o'clock this evening, really got to be on guard. And again, that weather balloon's going to tell us a lot coming up earlier this afternoon.
Yes. Let's see, talking about, when it's nighttime, it's really hard with these type of situations.
It is. And it's, if we get a line in here after dark, like what we saw on Easter, you can get a couple of spin-up tornadoes with that. I can't rule out that that's going to become a possibility if a line were to get in here later tonight. It's something we're going to have to watch.
Yeah. So with both threats of tornadoes and hail, will there be any type of watch issued for tonight? And that's all going to be dependent on that balloon, you think?
All dependent on what the balloon shows, what the radar looks like. If radar is quiet all the way through 5 o'clock this evening, you can probably count on not much happening.
That's a good news.
That's what we
want to hear.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what we want to hear with the situation.
And be fairly quiet.
Yes. Let's see. How confident are we for the cap breaking? Matthew was wondering.
That's where there's low confidence. There's the thing with the cap is we only get 2 weather balloons a day, and we're going to get a special one, what we call a supplemental weather balloon coming up early this afternoon. We would be a lot more confident if we had a lot more data at a lot more times during the day.
Yes.
It's easier to study cap formations and why they break and what it would take to break the cap. But the fact that we only get 2 good readings of the atmosphere a day really limits our ability to help forecast those things. Now, I've talked about this before. In the future, we're probably going to switch from weather balloons to drones. That would give us unlimited soundings a day.
Cool.
We could almost do one every hour if we wanted to, but we haven't gotten to that place yet. I'm hoping in the next 5 years or so we're going to do that. But it's just because we just have limited information available about what's going on upstairs.
Yeah. Then Matthew's also wondering, what is joules per kilogram? So, I mean, that's what we talk about with storm energy. So what is joules per kilogram?
Yeah, so joules per kilogram is exactly what that is. It's a measurement of the energy in the atmosphere. If you've ever taken a physics class, and boy,
Oh, yes.
those of us in weather school, we have taken plenty of them. This is what we use to measure that. So the number I'm showing you here for this afternoon, I think it went as high as about 1,800, 1860 joules per kilogram. That is how much energy is in a given parcel of air. And this is the table for that. So anything from 1,000 to 2,500 is considered moderate energy. If you go further to the west, say in Des Moines, you can actually kind of see it on the edge of the screen here. There's actually high instability. And I don't think my little cursor is going to let me move. Oh, there it is. There you can see.
Yep, the Des Moines, they have around 3,000 potential kilojoules.
Yep. So there's a lot more storm energy out that way compared to what we've got going here. Great question, though.
Tracy, we do not forget about you guys, and Victoria, don't you worry. We're keeping an eye on everyone here today, making sure everyone is safe. Kevin, we just want to make sure everyone's staying safe in these situations. That's pretty much all.
Exactly. Whether it's a level 2 or a level 3 or a level 4, those are nothing to sneeze at. Last Sunday, we had what? I think a level 2.
It was a level 2 for the south when it first came out, and then we got a 14 tornado outbreak.
A level 2 last Sunday, and we had 14 tornadoes drop in the Quad Cities region, everywhere from Tampico to, I believe, all the way south in parts of Macomb and parts of McDonough County. So, you know, we don't take these lightly. Yeah. There are a lot of folks that depend on this information. And, you know, even if it's a weak tornado, that can still be a life-threatening situation. For anyone who's caught in that. Doesn't matter if you're in the basement or not. So, you know, covering all the bases, it's our commitment that we have here at WQAD is we track storms. It's in our tagline, and that's exactly what we're going to continue to do.
Yes,
and we don't hype.
No.
This is a no hype situation.
We just said it's most likely gonna.
Exactly. We're giving it to you straight right here.
Yes, we just want to make sure you guys are safe. That's kind of our ultimate goal, is just show you the potential, and if it's there and it could be life-threatening, we just want to make everyone feel safe and feel as prepared as they can rather than being scared.
Yep, that's right.
So the gray, yes, Riley, Riley, you are correct. That gray area is just cloud cover. So that when we were showing you that future track potential, that gray was just a cloud cover. Looking for mainly that blue here with these graphics for that rainfall.
That's right. Yep.
Let's see. So yeah, these are all kind of just towns. Any chance of an upgrade to a moderate risk?
I think it would have to take a really bullish sounding from that balloon. That's what we call these balloon launches. They're soundings. It'd have to take a really bullish look. I don't see that happening right now. Could it happen later this afternoon? Possibly. Probably in the 3 o'clock update, I would imagine. I don't think it's going to happen the 11:30. But it's possible. If there's a consistent signal that cap is going to break, I could see potentially that moderate getting extended down a little further south.
Yes, especially into eastern Iowa. That's where I think the best potential would be.
Yeah, exactly. If you were to look at where it is right now and you kind of propagate your way to the southeast here, because typically they're going to put it smack in the middle of where you've got this 3. So if you're looking at a 4 out of 5, again, if the cap can break, you're probably going to see this extended downward like this. And that would take it just northwest of the Quad Cities into hometowns that are northwest of us.
Yes, your Maquoketa type potential area carrying up towards Dubuque.
In parts of Jackson County and things like that.
That's the best DeWitt, maybe the best chance of seeing that upgrade, if it happens.
If it happens, yeah.
All depending on that cap.
All depending on the cap.
Yes. Let's see, Tim Molina says, good morning. So many questions, but what are the chances, especially northwestern Iowa, you could see a tornado outbreak? That's actually closer to that level 4 out of 5 risk than, say, portions of the Quad Cities, or at least portions of northwestern Iowa are in that. So that's has the potential, and I was looking at this morning for central Iowa, there were some portions of the area that could see a little bit of a line breaking the cap up there, but that's, again, it's all still to be determined. It's all going to depend on this cap throughout the whole state of Iowa, throughout the whole Quad Cities region. That's really the whole story today.
Yep, and actually that's a little more favorable environment. You're closer to the actual area of low pressure. You can see when I pull up the dew points again, you can clearly see where that low is, where the low pressure center itself is. And when you're to the east of that and north of that, that's where you're going to have the highest tornado threat. So you look at where the wind direction is going, there's the counterclockwise flow of the wind. So the low is right here in the Dakotas. So it's right on the north and east of that where you're going to get the highest tornado threat. And with that thing plowing east, that lines up perfectly with that 4 to 5 risk that the SPC has out.
Yep. So it's near that triple point almost, you could say.
Yes, where you have the intersection of the warm front, cold front,
and the low.
And the low and the dry line. All comes together.
Sandwich it together.
Yes.
Just want to do this one real fast. Riley was wondering, says hi, and do we need to fear about severe weather? No, we do not need to fear.
No.
Severe.
You just need to stay informed, you know?
Stay informed.
Make sure you have a plan ready to go. The folks that have the worst of the storm anxiety, I always tell them, if you have a plan of action ready to go and you're staying updated on what's going on in terms of the storm timing and the intensity, you're going to be less anxious, especially if you have all of that in place and you're ready to go.
Yes, I agree.
I had a younger woman I was talking to a couple of weeks ago, and she said, you know, my neighbors probably think I am a doomsdayer because she's got canned goods in her basement and she's got the emergency kit. And I said, honestly, if a disaster ever hits your neighborhood, you're going to be the calmest person out of all of your neighbors.
Yes.
While everyone else is scrambling, looking for food and looking for whatnot, you're going to be ready to go with all of your stuff.
Always better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, you're fine. She's actually going to be the one probably helping her neighbors.
That's true.
So, you know, there's no shame in that whatsoever. If anything, I think it's smart.
Yep.
I think we've all seen enough movies and HBO Max documentaries, and I'm not going to mention any names, but my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
We hope none of those come to fruition, but it's better to be prepared, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much all we got. So, yeah, and then we got to get going. We got our meetings and all this
we got to
stuff.
scoot along. So we definitely wanted to log on this morning, see what was going on. Again, additional streams to be announced as we get into this afternoon. Of course, if stuff moves in, you know where we'll be. Here on the A Plus app and on air if necessary if the life-threatening stuff comes in. So stick with us. Again, we get that weather balloon launch early this afternoon. As soon as that data comes in and we can make a conclusion, we will let you know on all of our social media channels and, of course, on the Weather Impact Alert article at WQAD.com. We will see you later. Have a great Monday, Quad Cities, and stay safe.
Continue with us and watch free now on the 8 Plus app everywhere you stream.